Hi guys. So for this part of the class, for the argumentative, I thought I would go to some examples of how people write the essays well and how they sometimes make mistakes. So this might be the first part of a two-part lesson on the argumentative, and but we'll see. Let's see how far we can get. Okay, so I've pulled up some examples. I'm going to share screen and I'll walk you through what people do right and what people do wrong. Let's see, just a moment again. All right, good. So I'm going to adjust this on screen just a little bit. Okay, here we go. So this person has the label correct, their class, that's the way their class was labeled, designated. And they've got the title and then their name has been blacked out at the top for some privacy, and they got the date correct. So an okay title, tells me something, but doesn't tell me a lot. I'd like a little bit more in that title, but at least it's somewhat unique, and that's good. So the essay starts out, remember how you feel every time you walk by those homeless people. Well, this sounds a little, it could be a little bit more sensitive. And also the word remember is not really, I think, necessary. It's how, the person could have said, how does it feel every time you walk by a homeless person, right? But for the most part, this is a hook, right? It's a question that leads in. And then they start to address this issue. You might sympathize with them. I think they mean empathize, actually, is the correct term for this emotion with them because of their limited access to shelters and food, or you might want to stay away from them due to any personal reason, such as their ways of dressing or backgrounds they come from. So this it's a little unusual in the approach, but they're trying to address the issue. They go into a second question, which I think is okay, but it might be better just to go into the background. And for that, they do produce a good amount of information. So they go into the background, telling about how the population is increasing. They give some numbers. So there's some good background information. This introductory paragraph gets a little bit long on the page. You see that it takes almost the entire page. That's okay as long as it has relevant information. But I think that this paragraph could have moved through a bit more quickly. So there's that. Let's look at the thesis. In order to ease the social tension caused by homelessness, the government should focus on providing more affordable housing options, improving the healthcare system, and expanding the labor market. This actually, I think, is very well written because it proposes a solution to a problem, to a social issue, and it's specific and direct. So for those reasons, I would say this is a relatively decent thesis. However, it's a little bit broad, okay? It might be easier in an essay of this type to address one of these things, one or two maybe solutions, or you're not trying to address in a short essay lots of problems, because it's difficult to support that, but or to propose so many solutions, because it's difficult to give enough information to support all those solutions. But you might be able to provide one solution, or you might say that these are good options, but I want to focus on, boom, this one particular one, like more affordable housing options. That would probably be enough to tackle in one essay. So this is a decent opening paragraph, but it has some errors. Okay. Let's look at the first topic sentence of the next paragraph of the body paragraph. If the homeless people have permanent shelters to settle down, there will be a big difference on everything for them. Okay, this sounds like a bit of an oversimplification. Also, a big difference. Oops, I didn't mean to. Let's see if I can undo that. I didn't mean to cross that out. Let's see. Should be able to undo it. Okay, I can't undo it. Maybe I can't. Okay, so it says will be a big difference on everything for them. I would avoid hyperbole, and that means overstating something, right? Suggesting that something is going to be a tremendous benefit when it's a benefit, and a benefit is good, right? If you're proposing a benefit and it has cost efficient, it makes sense, it's reasonable, it's not harmful or overly harmful, then that's good. Don't try to add too much. So avoid hyperbole or overstating the benefit of something. She gives some quotes and statistics from professionals. She documents right here. She's using the correct form of citation. So Nichols and Cazares on page 340, this text, she is documenting what her quote is. So remember to cite it properly. Here she has ended the quote. She's put in parentheses what the citation is, and then she puts the period at the end. Correctly done. Now, we will talk about counter arguments, and maybe you'll see the other video first. There's another instructional video coming, or we'll discuss in class. But there's a process by which you do the argumentative essay. At first, you make your main point, which is up here. She makes her main point. If homeless people have permanent shelters to settle down, there will be a big difference on everything for them. Well, there will be a substantial difference, maybe, for them, for the homeless, to improve their lives. That is a main point that supports the thesis. Main points are supported by statistics and information, background information, quotes, etc. That's what makes up most of the body of the rest of this paragraph. She begins the next paragraph with what's referred to as a counter argument. Even though it's true that the government should take responsibility of helping homeless people being better off, some people argue that there are too limited resources to satisfy many of them. Okay, that's her counter argument. She's not saying let's give up because of this. She's saying this is a situation, right, that many people oppose shelters with. So many people say we don't have enough resources to go around, So why should we try to build shelters or provide homes, right? It's too much a burden on taxpayers. So, but every counter argument, as you will soon learn if you have not already, is followed by a counter argument. Nevertheless, the role of government is to try its best to satisfy its people by improving the qualities of their lives, whether they are homeless or not homeless. So she's saying that there's a moral imperative. There's even though it's a cost to the rest of society in some way, maybe some small way actually, and there may be more than one rebuttal, this is called a rebuttal, to the counter argument. I'm going to code these. So this is a counter argument. Okay. This is a counter argument up here. And down here is a rebuttal. So nevertheless, the role of government is to try its best to satisfy people. So there's a moral imperative. There's a reason to do the task anyway. So she has properly formed an argumentative essay by including a main point, a main point which supports the thesis. She's created one counter argument in opposition to her main point, and she has created a rebuttal to counter the counter argument. You always need, listen to this closely, you always need a counter argument, at least one, to every main point you have, because there are always objections to your main points. So always have a counter argument to go with your main point. However, never, ever have a counter argument without a rebuttal. You will lose your reader completely, and no one will buy your line of thinking if you don't have a rebuttal, because the rebuttal says that the counter argument is either lessened by, reduced by, or negated completely by the rebuttal. Okay? If you cannot find a rebuttal to a counter argument, then you need to reframe, restate, or eliminate your main point. And you might even have to change your thesis, because if you lack enough main points, you don't have a couple of main points at least, then your thesis is probably not going to fly. So this is an important process to follow. And if you're missing a counter argument, you're missing a rebuttal to that counter argument, then you won't do well on your essay, because you're not writing an argumentative essay, you're writing something else. Yeah. All right. Now, there can be more than one counter argument or counter arguments to every point, to every main point, and there can be more than one rebuttal to every counter argument, and often there are. Depending on the size of the essay, you sometimes can include the counter argument and the rebuttal within the same paragraph as the main point, But as you see, if you add a lot of supporting evidence, it may just crowd that possibility out. And that's fine too. It's just, it needs to go in this order. Don't put your rebuttal before your counter argument. And vice versa. Don't put don't bury your main point below your counter argument or below your rebuttal. That will cause problems. So she has this process that goes throughout the paper, as you should, of main point, counter argument, rebuttal. And remember, main points have to be supported by evidence, by support from valuable source material that you've received and that you've cited in your paper. Let's go to her works cited section. I think she did pretty well on this. Let's wait for it to load. You see there are lots of statistics, lots of citations. So it's a well-researched paper, even though it's some parts are awkwardly written. But in general, this is a fairly well-written piece. And it was probably revised quite a bit with a lot of peer reviewing. Her works cited section is almost perfect. Here's a misspelling on a word, but I'm not as concerned about a misspelling as I am about how the works cited section is structured. She has the works cited section titled properly. It's centered. Both words are capitalized, works and cited. It says works, not work. It's occasionally we'll see work cited without the S, but that's typically maybe there's one entry. You should have at least 3 entries in your argumentative essay. 3 source material items that you have properly cited. Notice that the first line in each works cited item is lined up flush with the border here. There's a little bit of an indentation from the border, but second and all following lines are indented. So we haven't talked a lot about the works cited section, but this is a good time to do it. Second and all following lines are indented. Okay. What is wrong with this works cited? Can you figure that out? There's one glaring mistake, and that is that it's not alphabetized. This belongs down here. So your works cited list should be alphabetized. Let's bring this one down below. Okay, this goes below. So last name first, C, H, and N. That's pretty easy to figure out. But you know what? This works cited section looks very clean. It's well written. All the information is contained in it. It's properly done otherwise, so she probably got a high score on this particular area. Now we'll be looking at this much more closely for the argumentative paper because source material is so important for your argumentative, and it's important for other academic papers going forward. So remember the process, the works cited section. Again, still kind of honing our skills on the introductory paragraph where we have a clear hook and so forth. So let me go to another author's paper. Okay, this is a very well written paper. But we're going to skip this. Okay. Never mind these. These didn't retain some stuff. So, all right. Let me go to the whiteboard. I'll show you here what I'm talking about some more. All right. So you have your introduction, which has your hook. You have background information. What comes next? Your thesis. This should all be looking familiar, right? Some kind of repetition usually helps you hold on to this information. So when we're writing body paragraphs, you have a topic sentence, of course. And this constitutes the topic sentence will be made up of your main point, your first main point, main point number one. Okay. Then you have supporting information, and supporting information should be made up of quotes, statistics, etc. Right? And it should be properly cited. Okay? So you need to cite the supporting info. And then you want to summarize your topic sentence and transition. Okay. So you're moving into the next paragraph. I'm going to label this the main point 1, Roman numeral 1. And here's why. Oops. Can I move that? No, I can't move that. I'm going to erase it. So main point is 1, Roman numeral 1. Here's why. We're going to look at counter arguments, right? Now, a counter argument, as I said, might be a complete new paragraph. But you can have more than one counter argument. So let's say you have 2 counter arguments. You have 2 ways of thinking, and I think I misspelled the first counter argument. You have 2 ways of thinking that are in opposition to your main point. Let's say, for instance, your topic sentence is about your hook is written about a football player in high school who injured his head. I think CTE is the term for this, long-standing damage that can be done to the brain because of concussion or other reasons. Okay. So your topic sentence might be something like high school athletes So this is a very simplified thesis. Your thesis, of course, would say something more, but your hook would say something like, Jose Montoya was playing football his senior year of high school. He was headed down the field, looking forward to graduation, not just the touchdown, and boom, he got hit close to the sideline and hit his head against the ground, causing permanent paralysis, right? That would be a very effective hook because it grabs the attention of the reader. So, and remember, we might bring that back in the conclusion and state how our solution of protecting from head injuries actually might have protected someone like him, right? So we could use that. We know that we could use that in the conclusion. So actually, I've put this as a topic sentence. I meant to put it up near thesis. I don't know if I can copy and paste, but high school athletes need to be protected from head injury. Okay, that's an oversimplification, but you know it works for an outline. Okay, and that's what we're giving here. As your background information, you want to give some statistics, you know, brief statistics or some history of what's been happening with head injuries. So if we're to come up with some support for this, we might come up with something related to coaching, right? So if we train coaches better, they might be able to instruct players on how to make tackles less dangerous, right? They might be able to instruct players on how to take a hit better so that it doesn't cause injury, other safety measures. So that might be one main point of your paper. Then you would have supporting info. You'd have all kinds of quotes and statistics from coaches, from research scientists, etc. That's from studies that have been done on CTE, on whether or not training coaches actually results in this. Well, a counter argument might be what? That it's too expensive to train coaches. Okay, maybe that seems like a legitimate thing. Or another counter argument may be that it really doesn't do all that much. There are other things that are more efficient. Doesn't do all that much to train coaches. It's, say this counter argument is more interested in wearing a helmet, a certain kind of helmet, a newly developed helmet. So these are counter arguments, and we can then, once we have these set up in our outline, and you should always do an outline, and we haven't discussed outlines because you probably have, hopefully you've done that before in your essay writing classes, but this provides somewhat of an outline. So argument is followed by what? A rebuttal. And what would be a rebuttal to it's too expensive to train coaches? So we're gonna number this 1, with not the Roman numeral 1, but traditional 1. Oops, that doesn't work. Try that. Okay, so one first rebuttal might be a little bit extra expense has some payoff. It may not be the ultimate payoff, but if if we have to pay coaches or pay to train coaches, it may cost a little more, but maybe it really does have some benefit. Okay. So this is the way we go. This is the method for the way we go through the paper. Main point one. So main point number two might be a better helmet, right? That might be the ideal, is if you have a better helmet, you have less head injuries. So you can see that there might be quite a few main points. And for your essay, maybe that you have to limit yourself to 2 or 3 main points, maybe 4, but 5 might be too much, given that you have to do counter arguments and rebuttals. And remember that you can have more than one counter argument, and you can have more than one rebuttal to each part of this process. So I might have 3 main points, and one of the main point has 2 counter arguments and 1 rebuttal to each counter argument, or it might have, this point might have 1 counter argument and 2 or 3 rebuttals to that counter argument. Okay, so be looking for that. All right, so this is basically the process, and each main point should make up a topic sentence for the paragraphs. Again, your counter arguments and your rebuttals might make up an entire paragraph. Depends on how the flow is. In the essay you just looked at, she had a counter argument, and then she had a rebuttal within an individual paragraph following the main point. And that works well as well. So especially for the size essay. So although I have some typos here, and it's a little rough, this is a pretty good guide. Then of course you want to conclude the essay with your conclusion and the works cited section. So that's a little bit of a rundown. We'll probably touch on this a little bit more in class, but that hopefully will get you started on building your outline for your argumentative essay.